You're listening to the Inbound Logistics Podcast with today's guest, Fred Laluyaux, President and CEO of Aera Technology. Decision-making in the supply chain has to attain an agility that meets and almost predicts the new aggressive consumer demand signals born from COVID. However, to effectively leverage the massive amount of data required to get there, companies should consider technology that processes that raw digital information into workable decision intelligence. Fred Laluyaux of Aera Technologies joins us with his insights on how decision intelligence is transforming logistics. Joining me today on the Inbound Logistics Podcast, President and CEO of Aera Technology, Fred Laluyaux. Fred, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. We're looking forward to our conversation. If you could you do us a favor and introduce yourself to our audience? Give us a little bit about your background, what you've done in the industry, and what you're doing with Aera Technology today.
Sure. So super happy to do that. So Fred Laluyaux, I've been building this company called Aera with my friend Sharik Mansour for the last 5-6 years now. Prior to that, I built another company in the world of software called attain, doing data modeling. Prior to that, basically, I spent years with SAP and business objects, and my entire career for the last 25 years has really been building software solution, building and implementing software solution that helped large organizations to perform better. So focusing on operational performance and financial performance, building models, helping them, project, predict, optimize their performance. That's been my career for the last 25 years. On the personal side, you may hear a bit of an accent because I grew up in France and moved to the US about 20 years back. And I'm based here with the team in San Francisco.
Excellent. And if you couldn't tell by the last name, he just made it clear there. But I do love the French language. I loved having to study to pronounce your name, so I hope I got it right.
You got it perfectly right.
All right, good. Well, let's get into the discussion today then. We want to find out how you would describe the current environment facing logistics management today. What are we looking at today?
I mean, I'm going to state the obvious, but it's massive disruption. Logistics is part of a broader supply chain. Supply chains are being disrupted on both sides, the demand side and the supply side. On the demand side, you have consumers that are demanding the products, their goods to be delivered in minutes now, really. Whenever they need it, they want it to be customized exactly and tailored to their needs. And that's kind of complexifying the supply chain dramatically. I was recently in Europe, and one of our clients were saying, "Look, we were very proud to deliver, within the day. Now we have to deliver within half day. The next frontier is within 2 hours in cities, right?" So think about the logistics challenges to be able to do that forward stocking location, how you actually organize yourself to deliver the product to the customer so fast. And then, of course, on the supply side, and I think that's the part that has been most disrupted over the last few years with COVID and after is, obviously getting access to the raw material, to the goods that you need to actually make the product has been more complex, right? So getting access means sourcing them, but also getting them to your factories, moving the goods from the factories to the distribution center. All of that has been very difficult. So you have an environment that's very unstable, that requires a massive amount of decisions that have to be made in real time, close to the point of impact. So when you combine the network complexity, the risk exposure, the multi-tier supply network, the constrained capacity, the geopolitical volatility, everything is really creating a massive strain on logistics in the world today. So, but I think the logisticians have been, in the front line for quite some time now, and I think that this new reality of where change is the only constant, where the past doesn't necessarily depict the future, is now well accepted.
And you mentioned a lot of things there that are affecting this new reality. Gartner actually identified as a top trend something called decision intelligence. What is decision intelligence, and why do supply chains need it?
Well, just to echo the point I just made, right? You have a need for agility in your decision making, meaning that you have to make faster, better decisions closer to the point of impact. And they're doing this in a world where the tribal knowledge that companies, large organizations have relied on for so many years. Graduates come out of college and they spend years learning their craft, learning the market, learning the network, learning the behavior of the different components of the network. Those resources are moving on very fast, right? Not just with the Great Resignation, but just people don't stay in the job for long enough. So if you think about a supply-demand analogy, right, you have a demand for decisions, both in terms of volume and quality and speed, that is pushed by the acceleration of the business cycles in supply chain that is increasing exponentially. And on the supply side, the point I just made around resources not being available, not staying in the job for long enough, cannot meet that demand. So the gap is growing faster. The image that we have is that the demand was growing fast, supply was kind of flat, but now the flat curve is actually trending down. So the gap is increasing. And this is where decision intelligence comes in, right? Decision intelligence, we define it at Aera as the digitization, the augmentation, and the automation of decision making, right? So you digitize the way decisions are being made. As a result, you can get augmentation, meaning better quality over time with systems that are learning and are delivering more accurate decisions. And automation, the work can be done automatically, taking the human out of the loop. So the way we like to describe the three steps of decision intelligence, the human in the loop, you're leveraging the decision intelligence platform to make the decisions as an operator. Human on the loop, where you're leveraging the digital technology to make recommendations that you can accept or reject, all the way to human out of the loop, where as I was just said, the humans are actually not required to make decisions; they're just required to monitor and guide the way the digital technology is making those decisions. Gartner has its own definition. It's a little bit more complex. It says a practical domain framing a wide range of decision-making techniques, bringing multiple traditional and advanced disciplines together to design, model, align, execute, monitor, and tune decision models and processes. I have to say, I just read this. I could not remember all of it. But the point is pretty much the same, right? Bringing multiple techniques of data modeling, of analytics, of data science, of automation, and an engagement model to digitize decision. And it's not the future, it's the present for a lot of companies. I think where Gartner is right is they reckon that like a third of large companies are either deploying some level of decision intelligence or will be in the next 12 months. And this is something that we predicted when we started Aera. Aera is been purpose-built for decision intelligence. When we launched in 2017, we had this white paper saying, welcome to the self-driving supply chain. And the whole idea was to really digitize decisions. Of course, when you build the technology, it takes time. So you have to start early, ahead of the market adoption, which is normal. And we're seeing today that demand really growing very fast. We just had several events from the Gartner Supply Chain Conference, both in Europe and in the US, or the NASESH, or the North American Supply Chain Conference in Chicago. And you could see that topic of leveraging decision intelligence to gain the agility and the scale and decision making for the chief supply chain officers was front and central.
All right. You threw a lot of terminology around out there. So I'm going to take the Aera approach to things. Digitization, augmentation, and automation. How are those elements of decision intelligence? How is that transforming logistics? I mean, what are some of the outcomes that the industry can expect from that?
Well, at a high level, think about all the decisions that you make when you're either designing a network or when you're running your logistics operation. So you're going to plan your work, and you're going to leverage the data and the intelligence and the optimization capabilities that are available in the decision intelligence capabilities to help you optimize the way you design. But I think the real advantage here is in the run. Once you've got your daily disruptions and you're trying to service your customers, the optimization of, I don't know, dispatching or optimizing storage and so on and so forth, those daily decision, intraday decisions that are hitting the operators are the ones that are going to be really well served with decision intelligence, which doesn't really matter how complex the decision is. It's all digital, it's all computerized, and the system can run through all the parameters to make the most optimal recommendation. So this is where, am I going to ship this lot this way or that way by this route or that route? All those optimization, can I hold it for a day and it can go tomorrow, saving without impacting my service level? Can I do all this stuff across a variety of different dimensions? This is where decision intelligence comes in. So I don't know, going through, questions would be reducing the cost for transportation and warehousing and maximizing warehouse capacity, could be proactively identifying shipping disruptions and react with strategic options without impacting the truck threshold. It could be optimizing railcar storage and dispatch. It could be managing, allocating, and merging orders for maximum efficiency and cost. We see a lot of that around allocation. It's a huge problem. How do I allocate my limited inventory to my customers, and I do that in a way that is optimal from a cost perspective, right? Of course, front and central is the concept, and I maybe should have started by that, of OTIF, right? How do I increase my on time in full for strategic customers? You know that Walmart before COVID introduced all those penalties, but that created a massive pressure for large CPG companies in the world to actually deliver their merchandise on time and in full. And that's very difficult to do. And logistics is a big part of that. And you can plan as much as you want, and planning is super important. The reality is that is the truck showing up at the dock on time? Is there enough capacity to unload the merchandise? All these different elements have to be digested when you're making the network operate properly. So there are so many different areas. I would say that if you have human operators making decisions, allocation, optimization, this is where decision intelligence fit in. Does that help? Am I answering your question?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, just to play off of that, then, if a company wants to adopt decision intelligence, how does Aera help supply chains get there?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier, we built the company with the idea of enabling non-digital native companies. Recently, we were on stage at the Gartner event with companies like Merck, like Mitsubishi Chemical, or Unilever, different industries, oil and gas, life sciences, or pharma, but all companies that were born way before Amazon. And the goal for us was to enable this non-digital native organizations who rely on a bedrock of transactional systems, right? They're trying to optimize and rationalize their ERP landscape. They have the system of record, they have their system of differentiations, their APSs, their WMS, their TMSs, and so on and so forth. But building that layer of intelligence that sits on top and help basically digitize the work that the operators are doing with all those different systems is what decision intelligence does. And this is why we built Aera from scratch. So in order to do that, we had to resolve four big problems without getting too technical, but just staying at high level. The first one was the data. If you want to digitize decisions, you need to ensure that 100% of the information that is required for that decision to be made be available in a normalized model that the intelligence can connect to and understand. And that's difficult to do when you understand that a company like one of our clients was running on 49 different transactional systems. However, Aera Technology, the platform, the Aera Decision Cloud, he's able to actually resolve that problem, pull the data from the different transactional systems or the data lakes and so on and so forth, and bring it into this normalized data model called a cognitive data layer. The second element that you have to address from a technology standpoint is the intelligence, right? You need to be able to project, you need to be able to predict, you need to be able to allocate, you need to be able to optimize. Doing all these operations requires a lot of intelligence to be built in the platform. The third is the automation. Of course, the goal is to really move from the human in the loop to the human out of the loop, because more automations delivers optimal. The more automation, the more value is created, the more agility you gain, and so on and so forth. So all our customers are really trying to get to a higher level of automation. We're seeing customers now in some specific decision processes that are able to go full automatic, right? Which is quite interesting, and meaning that they're letting the system just analyze the data, make the recommendation, decide, and execute, because the decision intelligence technology is able to execute the orders back into the transactional system. So all that orchestration, that automation capability has to be available. And the last one, which is really important, is the engagement. You're now building a new level of engagement between that digital tool and the business. Think about it as a machine in a manufacturing site. You have those screens that allow the human operators to define how the machine can work, to monitor the performance of the machine. Well, we're doing the same thing here, but with a purely digital tool. There's no physical aspect to it, and the ability for an operator to a planner to get a message from Aera that says, hey, I recommend that you rebalance inventory from this DC to that DC in order to avoid a projected back order for this product. And if you do it within the next 2 hours, this is what the gain can be. Do you want to do it? Yes, no. And the ability to get that message, the ability to understand the logic that's been deployed by the Decision Cloud, by Aera Decision Cloud, to get to that recommendation, to take action, that's fundamental. And that's what the system does, is then it will memorize that decision, and of course the decisions that are made automatically as well. And as a result, it builds a permanent memory of all the decisions that are made on a given business problem. And this is how you get to higher level of automation, but also more intelligence, more accuracy over time. The last point of engagement, which is really important, is the ability for the company to really then understand how the performance of the system improves over time as a result of having all that data, all that memory. Am I seeing an increase in accuracy? Am I making decisions differently than I was making when it was fully human-based? Am I happy with that? Should I roll out best practice on a broader scale? So again, engaging with the system in a new way, where it's not the humans doing the work, it's the machine doing the work, but guided by humans. So we build this end-to-end platform that really resolves the data, the intelligence, the automation, and the engagement. And without it, it's very difficult to digitize decisions. You need a purpose-built platform to do that. And I think Gartner now has defined that as a new software category, and they have criteria for decision intelligence platform. And it really comes at the intersection of data and analytics, of automation, and of AI, right? You bring the best of these practices together in one ensemble, and it has to scale. The challenge is you can create a micro version of it. It's not too difficult, but think about it, right? We had a client last couple of weeks on stage saying that Aera was already delivering 1 million accepted recommendation for their business, right? So it means that there's 1 million recommendation. Think about how many decisions you have to make to get to 1 million, and the system brings the level of scale that's unprecedented, right? So you're seeing that intelligence at scale and the ability to react, in a matter of seconds when you need to. Keeping control, that's what Aera basically delivers, and that's what customers are leveraging Aera for.
Yeah, it sounds like the returns are exactly where companies and supply chains want to be. Now, saying that though, the process sounds kind of involved. So what advice can you give supply chain leaders who may be interested in getting started with decision intelligence?
Yeah, this is a good point. So well, my advice would be to start right away. And I tell you, not being facetious, but or self-serving here, but there is an element that's important. The point about collecting the decision data is really important, right? Understanding how you and your teams are making decisions today. You think you know, right? You think you understand, oh, this is the way we make that decision. We always optimize for this versus that. But the reality, and that's what we found working with our clients, is the reality is always a little bit different, or sometimes very different. The way decisions are being made is not necessarily what you find in your playbook. When you start digitizing them, you have one version of the truth. You start memorizing all these decisions, and that becomes the material that allows you to get the agility and the intelligence that you need to perform better. And you look at the stunning performance of companies like Amazon or any other digital native, collecting all that data, give them an incredible advantage. And or Netflix, or you name it, any digital native company will say, well, we've learned how to win with data. And of course, companies today have massive amount of data, but the one that they don't have is how are decisions being made, in what context, for what goal, and for what effect. And that's what decision intelligence gives you. So my advice would be, don't let the competition start building the data set, and you don't. You have to really catch up. Then I think the advice, the second advice, which we don't assume that you understand how decisions are being made. We made that mistake. We saw our early adopters, the pioneers, make that mistake as well. Oh, this is how we plan. Well, the reality is that you think this is how you plan. This thing that this is the decision logic of that you deploy when you're planning, but maybe the way you're doing it in Belgium with Deleuze is different than, I don't know, in France with Carrefour, or of course US with Walmart, right? And those differences are not captured there. It's a tribal knowledge, and that's something that you have to be very much aware. Is like, this is a process that is involved in that it requires the true understanding of how decisions are being made, or a clear decision that you're going to enforce a new approach. There is the emergence in the market, and we're seeing now early adopters creating new roles that I didn't anticipate a few years back. One of them being decision analyst. A decision analyst is used to, talk about data analysts. Well, this is a data analyst that is, doing the bridge and with the business, and understanding and documenting how decisions are made. So I would say jump in, start small in one area of your business, and start learning and building that practice. I can predict that in the next few years, the decision analyst and the center of excellence for decision intelligence will be integral part of any large organization. You see, and I'm talking here non-digital native the organization, and we see it happening already, right? So there'll be communities around that. This is going to be we're at a point similar to asking ourselves the question around robotics, and I'm not talking digital robotics. I'm talking about robots in factories, right? Mm-hmm. In manufacturing plants, you had people doing the work, and now you have machines doing the work guided by people. Well, the same thing is happening with a whole new set of work, repetitive, but requiring some intelligence and experience, and this is where decision intelligence comes in. So I would say my advice would be to jump in, start early, find the right partner. It's easy to think that you can build it yourself because you have an AI department in your company, because you have already built a data warehouse, because you already have built a bunch of analytics. The pitfall of doing that is, you're not getting the leverage of a community and of expertise. But the second is, it's incredibly difficult to do that at scale. And this is where I would recommend looking at technology platforms like Aera, because that's what we do, right? We built the platform in order to enable large companies to deploy this at scale, and doing it fast. Again, one of our clients, one of the largest CPG company in the world, again with us on stage a few weeks back, was talking about the fact that they're going to digitize about 100 decision areas. We call them skills, basically building skills into their digital decision cloud. And that's a lot, right? 100 decision areas, millions of recommendations delivered at scale. And this is the reality of some of the biggest names in life sciences, in CPG, in oil and gas, in manufacturing, in tech. So yeah, if you're not looking at this now, you're probably are a bit behind.
Yeah, so get on it earlier than later, right? But you touched on it a little bit, so I'm going to ask you to expand on it a little bit more. How did Era wrap its brain around all this data and intelligence gathering? Tell me more about the company.
Yeah, so I first wrote about this concept. It wasn't called decision intelligence. Back when I was with SAP, that was almost 12 years ago, because it was clear to me that the supply demand issue that I discussed earlier, right? The demand for intelligent decisions, that after 40 years of investing in transaction automation, which is the world of ERP and core systems, what's the next system of that comes on top, right? I looked at it and I said, look, it's we have enabled the world to go flat thanks to ERPs. We can have global companies with consistency in systems, in accounting, and all this great stuff. But making decisions on top of these systems is still a nightmare. You have companies that had 8, 9, 10 levels of hierarchy and the decisions moving up and down and not being taken close to the point of impact. So the point I'm making is this idea for what's now called decision intelligence was born a long time ago. And we worked pretty hard for years to think about how we can do it end to end digitally, and this is the leap of the big jump that we did in 2016, right? Saying we have to start from scratch. There's no way to retrofit an existing tech stack to actually do what we want to do. It has to come with a lot of inspiration from the consumer internet in terms of scale and speed and technology. So we took a leap of faith, and we had great investors. We had some success with our previous company. So a bunch of us just decided to try it out and say, we are not going to bulge. We're going to say our goal is to build a decision intelligence platform. At the time, we called it a cognitive automation, not decision intelligence. But it was really the flag that we planted on that hill. This is we're not stopping until we enable our clients to do that. And I remember early days, we were saying one of the the KPIs for the company, I'm talking Era right now, was enabling 1 million recommendations, like intelligence recommendation that would be accepted by the business, meaning that Era will deliver a recommendation to change a forecast number or to rebalance inventory or to stop a purchase order to go through whatever. And someone in the business would look at it and say, yeah, that's a good recommendation. I accept it. So we had this macro goal of 1 million Era accepted recommendation. And now we have that happening within a single client, right? So you're seeing the scale again, and all the clients are approaching it not as a point solution, but as a platform. And our obsession has been two things, right? Time to value and value over time. Time to value is this cannot take more than a few weeks to implement. And I know that people are probably going to go like, what is he talking about when you hear the word weeks? But it takes a few weeks, between 4 and 12 weeks, to implement Era and get the first skill up and running, meaning connecting to the transactional system, building the cognitive data layer, adapting or deploying or customizing a skill and rolling it out. We've managed to do it in a matter of weeks as opposed to months. So most traditional software, if you're implementing a planning tool, it will take you years. This is because we've started from scratch, we're able to do it in a different way that allows that. And the second element is the value over time. Most clients, and have done this for 25 years, they put 100% of their attention on going to live, having a system go live. And then after a while, a year or two, you're seeing the systems being poorly used and you need to throw more people at it. My obsession with Sharik was to make sure that the system value would be monitored and improved over time. The level of automation would increase, the level of intelligence would increase, and you could measure it in real time. So our obsession at Era was time to value and value over time. I think we've achieved some promising results with some of the world's largest companies, and we're now seeing the scale in the market that's happening. So our vision was also that it should be a glass box and not a black box. If you're going to enable a technology to make digital decisions, you need to be in full control of the logic that's being deployed. And when I say you, I mean you as an operator, you as a business, and not have any black box coming from the vendor. The other thing is you need to have that logic to be very, very quickly composable, customizable, because the way you make decision changes quickly. And if you're stuck in a black box with a need to do some enhancement request from the vendor, it's not going to work. You're never going to be doing the justice to the approach. So we had to deploy, composability and trust, factors in the platform as well. I'll pause here because I can speak about this for 3 hours, but that's probably been long enough.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, in fact, for any audience members who want to peek into that glass box, where can I point them? Where can I send them for more information?
So I would say our website. So it's Aera Technology, AERA Technology.com. That's where you, and then find us on LinkedIn, find us on all the usual networks.
Excellent. So thank you for all of that great information, Fred Laluyaux. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk today. Best of luck to you and to Aera Technology, and for any supply chain companies out there that want to adopt decision intelligence, here's all the information for you. So take that to heart. And Fred, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Inbound Logistics Magazine is the information leader in supply chain and logistics management. Start your free print and digital subscription today by visiting bit.ly/getil. That's bit.ly/get_IL and stay ahead of the 3PL game.
The Inbound Logistics Podcast is a production of Inbound Logistics Magazine. For the most in-depth information around logistics, transportation, and supply chain practices, get your free print and digital subscription at inboundlogistics.com/subscribe. Connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for the most current developments in the industry. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or have a topic you'd like to see covered in a future episode, call our dialogue line at 888-878-3247 or leave us an email at podcast@inboundlogistics.com. I'm your host, Jeff Vita. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Inbound Logistics Podcast.